Thanks everyone for joining. Today's a really exciting session and an area I think that's really important for our students and agents to know more about. We've got a lovely set of panelists here today, which I'm happy to introduce, but welcome to our law webinar today for international. And just a few housekeeping rules. So feel free to pop in any questions you guys might have in our chat box. In our Q&A chat box, and we'll definitely answer your questions towards the end of the session. But yeah, happy for you guys to do that throughout the session anytime you have a question, and we'll attend to it to the end. So I'll move on to the next slide just to introduce everyone who are the speakers today. So we've got Dan Nicole, and we've got Jane Nielsen, and we have Madeline Archer, and we have Pratap Devarapalli, and we have Olubenga Olatunji. I hope I've said everyone's names correct, but they're here today to speak about law and give you guys further information. We do have graduates here as well, and a PhD candidate as well, to give you guys a bit more in-depth information about their experience studying law at the University of Tasmania. So I will move on to the next slide. And happy to hand it over to you, Deanne.
Thanks so much, Mona. And can I just welcome you all to this law session. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about law at the University of Tasmania. And then I and the rest of the group are going to be talking a little bit more about our specialisation, which is health law. And we have a centre here at the University of Tasmania called the Centre for Law and Genetics. So I'll get back to that in a minute, but I just wanted to start off by talking about our little law school. It's often referred to as the best little law school in Australia, or at least that's the way we like to think about it. Here we are, we're small, but we're beautiful, and we live in beautiful Tasmania, which is really an island paradise, particularly in the present circumstances around the globe. We have had our first COVID case in about 12 months last week. So we have one case at the moment, but that is all. So the law school, it's small, as I've said, but it's very diverse. When we look at enrolments, we have school leavers through to retirees and everybody in the middle. Our students come from Tasmania, all around Tasmania, from interstate, and around 20% of our students are international, mostly from Malaysia and Singapore, but from many other countries as well. And as for what they study, they can study a variety of combinations of degrees. A lot of students do straight law, but they might do law and economics, or law and science, or law and arts, a whole array of different options. They also go into a whole array of different careers. Many will go into legal practice, but they also go into business and government and academia. And many people, when they're starting their degrees, simply don't know, and that's fine. The whole point of what we try to do for our students in their law degrees is to try and help them prepare for whatever future they decide. There's three particular areas of research and teaching expertise in the law school that I've written down here: health, environment, and crime. And we think that those are all really important areas of the law globally. Health, of course, is critically important, particularly at the present time. And understanding how the law interacts with health is something that we're really passionate about. So you'll hear in this presentation about our work at the Centre for Law and Genetics, also about the law school and the undergraduate and postgraduate experience, and the role of the Centre for Law and Genetics within the community, whether we're talking about our local Tasmanian community all the way through to the global community. So Mona, could I get the next slide, please? So the Centre for Law and Genetics then. First of all, I'll just talk a little bit about me. I'm director of the centre. I've been director since 2015. And I bring a background in science and law. My first training was as a biologist, and I got a PhD in cell biology. And then later on in life, I went into law. And of course, this has really set me up to work on issues to do with science and law. Our Centre for Law and Genetics was established in 1994. That was when I was doing my undergraduate degree in law. And what we're really interested in is this thing called ELSI. ELSI stands for Ethical, Legal and Social Implications. And it's become a part of sort of mainstream scholarship when we're looking at genetic and genomic technologies, all the sorts of innovative medical technologies that are being developed all the time. Really, really interesting technologies, but with each new technological advance, there are a whole raft of new legal issues that emerge as well, whether it's privacy and confidentiality or consent or genetic discrimination, or whether indeed you can patent various aspects of these technologies. So at the moment, we have 10 staff and research fellows. We've had quite a number of people who've done their PhDs or Masters of Laws, 23 so far. We have 8 students currently doing their PhDs. And perhaps one of the most interesting things from your perspective is that we offer undergraduate students the opportunity to be research assistants with the centre. And Maddie will talk more about that. So far, we've had 21 undergraduate students that we've been able to give this opportunity to. And we've been able to raise a lot of funding to help us with this research, both in grant income and through consultancies. So this is sort of our passion, and what we would like to do is share our passion with you, both now and hopefully when some of you end up coming to the University of Tasmania. So I'll just hand over to Jane now.
Thanks, Di. So I'm going to just, I guess, take a little step back and talk a little bit more about the law school more generally. And look, the first point I've made there is that our law school, as Di mentioned, it's not a large law school, but we've been around for around 125 years now. So for the entirety of the history of the University of Tasmania. And clearly over that period, we've educated many, many law students. Our students, there is absolutely no doubt, are a cohesive and tight-knit group, and they maintain really strong alumni relations after leaving the university. As Di said, we have graduates training to do a variety of careers. So not just practicing law, we've sent our graduates off during our history to become judges, diplomats, parliamentarians, senior members of all sectors of government, both nationally and internationally, senior executives, developers and implementers of human rights. We've had some really strong human rights scholarship during our 125-year life, criminal justice and environmental policymakers. And a good number of our graduates go on to do postgraduate study, either in Australia or overseas. So we like to think that we send our graduates out to do some really interesting things and to really make a difference in the areas of law that we excel in. I think one of the reasons our students are so engaged is that they are taught by academics who lead their field. We have a strong group of really dedicated teachers who are inspired to guide students through their degree to achieve the best outcomes they can. And because we're small, that offers a real advantage because our staff are sufficiently aligned with the student body to be able to provide the best pastoral care experience that students need, particularly early in the degree. I've noted there as well that the UTAS Law School has been consistently ranked within Australia's top 10 law schools based on our consistently strong teaching and research performance, which I think is quite an achievement given our relatively small size. So that is based on objective measures like graduate outcomes and survey results, and our outcomes in Australia's research performance rankings, in which we have also performed at above world standard. Our law school recently ranked in the top 151 to 200 law schools globally in the Shanghai Rankings global ranking of academic subjects for 2021. And I think one of the reasons that we are able to engage so well with our students is that our academics heavily engaged in research also teach into the whole degree, including the core units within that degree. So our core units cover all of the areas of core competency required for legal practice. And I think our staff are able to infuse their research interests into these core units to maintain their currency and ensure that the content is contemporary. And it also ensures a close nexus between teaching and research at our law school, which I think is really vital for our students. Now, as Di mentioned, we also offer a number of specialised elective units, which capitalise on our research strengths. So those research strengths that Di's already touched on. So within our elective offerings, in addition to the more traditional units we teach, we offer a number of units in the areas of our research specialisation, and find that those electives are really, really popular with students who love having the opportunity to learn from experts in their respective fields. So for example, in the area of medical health and biotechnology law, we teach a number of electives relevant to that research strength, such as biotechnology law, which Di has been heavily involved in teaching, intellectual property law, and health law and ethics. In the environmental and climate change area, we have another research institute at our law school, the Australian Forum for Climate Intervention Governance, and we offer a range of elective units within that environmental and climate change area, such as current issues in environmental law and policy, law of the oceans, and Antarctic and climate change law and policy. So some really interesting units there, closely aligned to our proximity to the Antarctic and our expertise in environmental law. And in the criminal and sentencing law and law reform area, and I should mention also that we have a Tasmanian Law Reform Institute here at the law school, which has done some amazing research over the years. We have electives such as forensic psychology and criminal justice and law of conflict and international criminal law. So a really wide array of, really fantastic electives that students can start to specialise in. Just to finish off, I thought it was also worth mentioning that students here at University of Tasmania also have the opportunity to complete practical legal training for admission to practice anywhere in Australia at the conclusion of their 3.5-year law degree. So our practical legal training course here in Tasmania is unique because it offers students a very practice-based 6-month training course to give them the prerequisites for admission. It has a very strong advocacy component, and the unique thing about it is that it's heavily supported by our local legal profession and our judiciary, which makes it a really excellent networking opportunity. And really importantly for students, the law degree and this course can all be completed within a 4-year period. So that is just a little overview of our law school. I think we're on to the next slide now, and I think I'm handing over to Madeline, sorry.
Thank you, Jane. So I'm Madeline, and my involvement with CLG has been as an undergraduate research assistant. And I've done that while completing my combined Bachelor of Science and Bachelor of Laws. Working as a research assistant with the centre has given me the opportunity to pursue research in fields far more wide-reaching than just law or even just health law, which I found really to complement my own studies. The role has offered me a working knowledge of many scientific concepts, including regarding genomics and genetics especially. I've learned a lot about planning and conducting high quality research, research methods and methodologies, something I didn't have much exposure to in the law side of my studies, which I found to broaden my horizons. Some qualitative and quantitative work has been a part of that. So as an undergraduate law researcher, it's really exciting to think about those and have exposure to research and ways of conducting research. There was also a lot of exposure in this role to the world of academia, publishing, and this work has really honed my skills regarding referencing, formatting, proofreading, and has given a lot of insight into what working as a junior academic might look like. As a research assistant, there are also a lot of administrative duties, fostering good organisation skills that will only benefit your undergraduate studies. This has been organising meetings and events, but they're always really fun. As an undergraduate, there are also lots of opportunities to pursue areas of particular interest through the CLG, even not as a research assistant. So, as has been mentioned, members of the centre teach into a wide range of undergraduate elective and core subjects, including those on the slide. This allows students who aren't directly involved with the centre to have exposure to the issues that the centre grapples with and to have exposure to its great research. Also, as I touched on before, working with the centre allows an undergraduate to gain real life experience in interesting areas. Your legal research skills will definitely be improved. That'll help you with your undergraduate studies. You'll learn about the options that exist outside of uni in the areas of health, academia, research more broadly. And you're one of the lucky ones who's able to combine work while studying, because this work is very flexible and you can do it in your own time and you have fantastic colleagues around you. Working as an undergraduate with the centre has been an amazing opportunity for me, and I can't recommend it enough. I'll hand over Mona to Pratap.
I think you're on mute, Pratap.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. Yeah, I was just saying that it's my pleasure to talk about CLG and my experiences here. So my research is related to patents and 3D bioprinting, so which itself talks about Center for Law and Genetics. So it's a mix of law as well as biotechnology and genomics. So I'll try to share my experiences as a postgrad at UTAS Law School and specifically at the Center for Law and Genetics. A short background about myself. I pursued my bachelor's in biotechnology and my first master's in genomic sciences. And I came to Australia and then did my second master's in intellectual property law. So I worked as a patent attorney as well back home in India. So talking about Center for Law in Genetics, when I was actually searching to take up my research in techno-legal aspects, I was looking for a place where which has more expertise in biotechnology aspects as well as legal aspects. And I was looking for different places around the world. And I can say that this is the best place. The CLG was one of the best places where which attracted me to start my research as a PhD student. And specifically talking about the international recognitions, Center for Law and Genetics has collaborations with universities like Oxford and Cambridge in the UK, and as well as McGill University in Canada. And I would like to also talk about the mentors. My PhD mentors, Diane Nicol and Jane Nelson. Their expertise in technological research is can't be explained in words actually, but yeah. So Di has more than 30 years of experience in the technological research, and Jane has around 20 years of experience working on technological aspects. So we can actually learn a lot of things from them. And coming to talk about the international postgrad community, you can actually see a small world in the law faculty, especially in the postgrad. We have students from Argentina, France, Netherlands, Kenya, Nigeria, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. We all have usually spend time having food together, sharing cultural activities, and a lot of things. And we always share knowledge from talking about their culture, which is also part of learning, having a global networks. And yeah, it actually enables us to enhance our thinking, to think in different ways, having a good international community. And yeah, these all things come together as a part and parcel of to develop advanced research skills that will prepare you for a career which technological research and legal skills are highly valued. Yeah, thank you. And I'd like to ask Benga, hand over to Benga. He'll talk about his experiences.
Thank you, Pratap, and hi, everyone. I'm glad to be here this afternoon to talk about my experience with the CLG as a recent graduate. I guess it's important to mention that I recently graduated in April 2021, so my experience is still very fresh. I came to Tasmania in 2016, and my research was going to look at the intersection between patent law generally and how that impacts access to intellectual property right, access to medicine in low and middle income countries. So fast forward to 2020, I completed the thesis and I graduated in April as mentioned. So what I'm going to be saying in the next 5 minutes would be from my experience during this period of time as a recent graduate. The first thing I would like to talk about is how postgraduate research is conducted within the law school and at CLG in particular. So from personal experience, I can speak to the fact that we have a very supportive and conducive research environment within UTAS as a whole, and within the law school as a smaller O, and within the CLG specifically. So there are so many instances that I can cite to buttress this, but I'll only just mention a few of those instances. So I particularly like being able to access research materials needed for my research from the comfort of my office or sometimes from the comfort of my room. And two of the systems unique to few universities in Australia is the use of document delivery and the bonus system. So the bonus system will allow you to borrow any relevant book from anywhere in Australia, including from New Zealand, while the document delivery will get you whatever literature you need from anywhere in the world. I particularly love the document delivery because it brings me book from everywhere all over the world. So that's make conduct of research very comfortable. It makes it so very easy. And it's one thing that made my research journey very easy and remarkable. Secondly, there is an ambience of collegiality, and this particularly creates a sense of belonging. So when I say collegiality, I'm referring to the relationship between the academic staff and graduate research students. So it's so particularly stand out that it's difficult for you to know that research students are not staff themselves, because we have the law school staff treating us as if we are colleagues and as if we are already collecting salary. Of course, we're not collecting salary, but they kind of give us that respect And that is something you want wherever you want to conduct, you want to go and conduct a research. So you don't want an environment that is bitter, an environment that would not allow you to gather your thoughts. So that is one thing to think about with the law school and with the CLG. And in fact, staff meetings are open to all postgraduate students. So you can attend, you can make contribution, and this kind of prepare you for after your study. If you go into the academia, for instance, it prepare you for what happened outside the four corners of the university. And of course, I think almost everyone have alluded to the competency of the staff that we have at the law school here. They are competent, they are experienced, they are humane, they are respectful of your views. And I have two supervisors. Diane Nico is one of them. Heather Forrest is the second. They show me how to review students' submission without being too harsh. So they give feedback in a very positive manner. And again, this is what you want when you are going through the very difficult journey of conducting a PhD research, which can be so very boring sometimes. So you find this set of humane and well-experienced supervisory team at the Utah Law School and at the Center for Law and Genetics. The second aspect I want to talk about has to do with teaching opportunity, which is available to research students. So as a research student, you have, if you want to, there is that opportunity there for you to be able to teach into or to tutor into some of the law units at the law school. And this is something which seems to be a little bit peculiar to the law school here alone, because I have colleagues from other faculty who do not have this kind of opportunity. So as a research student in the at Utah Law School, you are given the opportunity to teach into some of these units depending on your area of interest. From a personal perspective, I taught into the law 251, which is the law of contract from 2017 up to 2020. And of course, even since 2020, I've been involved in a number of other courses in which the law school participated in. So this is quite very big because it gives you experience and make sure that by the time you are completing your program, you are already kind of job ready. So you don't submit application for job and leave the blank for experience. Leave the space for experience blank, because your tutoring experience, your teaching experience, your marketing experience, they all come into place when you start looking for job. So, and I guess that is why it is not surprising that so many of the students who complete their PhD from the Utah Law School do not really have any problem finding job, especially in the academia or wherever they want to go. There are so many number of people that we know. And of course, I happen to also be a personal example of how this is usually the case. I completed my PhD early this year. I had a graduation in April and then got a teaching position with the University of Sydney around June, which I'll be starting in January next year. So if you are contemplating whether to come to Utah for your research, whatever area of law you want to consider, you'll find suitable expert there. And I would advise that you give it a shot and you will never regret it. Thank you for inviting me once again. And I'll pass on to me. I think we go back to Di here.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Benga, and thanks for the whole of the team. That was great. So as I explained, I think Marg can't be with us today because she's doing some more community development in the north of the state. And I don't want to talk for very long because I think you've probably heard enough from us, but I just thought I would emphasize the importance of the role of the community with the Centre for Law and Genetics, but with the university generally. So, lots of people think of universities as ivory towers that are really shut off from the rest of the community. And we certainly don't think that here at the University of Tasmania. We see our role within the local community as a really important role. And we see our role in the global community as being really important as well. So as well as doing all the things you've heard about, the teaching and the research, community engagement we see as being a really important part of our role as academics. And we also see it's really important to build that into our student community. So our students recognize that they're also part of a bigger community, both very locally, but also internationally. The other thing I should mention is, of course, because we're in the law is not just a static monolith, but the law needs to change all the time in response, in our area, in response to technological developments, but also in response to changing community attitudes. So we think it's really important to be able to assess those community attitudes. And we do a lot of work that's probably more social sciences work, talking with members of the community, doing surveys, running interviews and so on to assess what the community is thinking about the law and whether it's time for the law to change to make sure it keeps up with contemporary community attitudes. So this is something that's a really strong component of our research, but we see it as being a really important component of the law school more generally. So we feel that it's important to work with policymakers, with government and parliamentarians and decision makers and the like. I don't think I need to say anything more than that. I just wanted to emphasize that there are three major roles that we try and fulfill here. The most important, of course, is teaching. Teaching our students is absolutely dear to our hearts, but we also see our researchers having a very important social function, as is our role within the community and in policy development. So I'll leave it there, Mona, and I'll see if there are any questions that anybody would like us to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. That was really enjoyable to listen to you all. And I think I learned something from all of you. But I think what stood out to me was that essence of the community vibe that I've felt with everyone speaking today. And I think I really like what Olubenga, you mentioned, you know, how people can't distinguish between a graduate or a research student or any student between a staff. And I think that pays tribute to how the professors and the academics and, you know, work with their students. And, you know, University of Tasmania has won the highest teaching awards. So I'm not surprised that that's the case. I think it's really a fantastic opportunity for students to, it paves the way, you know, for students to know how to move forward with their style and how they want to think about law and apply that in practice. And I think that goes for other disciplines as well. So that's really fantastic. I find that really lovely to hear. I'm going to stop sharing because it's probably better if I have all your screens. There you go. For the attendees, feel free to pop through any questions you guys might have. I'm happy to answer them or have the panelists answer any, but I'll wait till some more come through. But I guess I had a question, I guess, in terms of maybe Diane or Jane. So it's students who've done law at the University of Tasmania. Do you guys have any sort of information of students who've gone back home to practice law or anything like that? No, Diane?
Yeah, I'll just come in there. So I was teaching intellectual property law this semester, and given that it's all online and it's a bit challenging for people, I thought the last thing they want is just me. So one of the things I did, I reached out to a number of students that I'd taught in the past, and I knew had sort of gone into the field of intellectual property. And I really thought it would be useful to ask them to do a short video for the class so the class could hear about what they were up to. And one of the students I talked to was Dixon, a student who came from Singapore and is back in Singapore now. And he is doing the most astounding things. He was leading a government inquiry into intellectual property law. And, you know, I think he's probably maybe 10 years out from his degree, but he is just absolutely at the top of his field. And for me to see him go back to his country and contribute in such a significant way was just fantastic.
How amazing. That's great. It's a story.
Really powerful.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Jane, do you have...
Look, I was just going to say, I don't have any statistics to hand on, you know, the number of international students who head back home versus those who stay, and I wouldn't like to hazard a guess, but I would say, you know, I know of a significant number who have returned home, but also many who have stayed. So I know students stay in Australia and move interstate to work in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, or elsewhere, but some stay in Tasmania as well. So I know of quite a few of our international graduates who have stayed in Tasmania, done the legal practice course, and then gone on to work in private practice here in Tasmania, or to do other really interesting things. So, or to go on to do postgraduate studies. So that's another thing that quite a few students have done as well. So yeah, no firm numbers, but you know, my firm feeling is it could be roughly half and half return, half stay.
That leads on really well to my next question, Jane, that you just touched base on it really quickly. I guess after students doing their 6 months of legal prac, how does it look like? Because we get a lot of student inquiries or agents asking us a lot about, you know, the pathway after that, because we obviously just offer the legal prac bit. I guess a lot of students want to know usually what happens after that, if they do a master's, etc. What do they look at usually, or how does that work?
Most students, after they've done their graduate legal training, go into private practice. So they don't have to, but they generally do it because they want to practice law. I know, because I'm the chair of the board of our Centre for Legal Studies, I know that this year roughly 90% of our graduates from the legal practice course had a job in Tasmania when they left. So, you know, outcomes have varied from year to year, but most, well, I will say that the legal practice at the moment in Tasmania is, or in Australia, is really, really busy. There is a lot of work around. I think COVID might have something to do with it. There's a lot of legal work around, and that is translating into you know, quite a lot of jobs, a lot of graduate opportunities. And so I would say, you know, it's a pretty good time to be contemplating going into legal practice, because there are jobs around. So I you know, our outcomes have been really excellent. Maddie did the legal practice course this year, finished that this year before going on to start a PhD. But yes, you know, my sense is that most students do it because they want to practice law.
Yeah.
And some of the students obviously go interstate, so they might get a job at a big law firm and do their legal practice as part of their professional training within the firm, or they might go to some of the other training courses. So there's one at ANU. Well, no, I think the ANU one is just closed down, but there's a few other options there. And of course, other options that students might take are actually to go into the public service, to work for government. And the federal government in Canberra has regular recruitment drives each year for graduate entries. And certainly having a law degree, I think, stands you in really good stead in so many government departments, because having that legal training is really so crucial to so much of what governments do. So that's certainly another good option to think about too.
Yeah, and it hits a few points there, and I think it having that overall Bachelor of Law and whatever you tend to specialize in, that would be your personal option. But I think it's important. I think COVID's got to do a lot with it, and it's changed a lot of things. But it really leads on to my next question. Madeline, maybe it's for you. So you're doing your legal prac now. How is that going for you, and what's the experience been like?
I just finished actually. So I was admitted in August.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a month ago. It was really good. I enjoyed the legal practice course very much. I found it to be very hands-on, very different from uni in that regard. You have a lot of assignments due in a very short time frame, and just the nature of the tasks are completely different. You're drafting letters and you're writing advice and you're drawing up court documents, and they're due the next day. And that can be scary, but it was also a really good experience. I did get a lot out of it, and there's so much exposure to and engagement with the legal profession. Judges are giving you feedback on your bail application. There's not many other legal practice courses that give you such an opportunity. In saying that though, I just got a great offer for a PhD, and though it was my intention to go into legal practice, my course veered off a little bit, but having that qualification, I may go back into legal practice one day. I'm just not sure.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Madeline. I guess, Dan, we touched base on this a little bit. How is COVID sort of changing it? Because coming from a background of health law, looking like for the future, I guess, if students with COVID now hitting, students probably interested in that area, I'm assuming it's only going to just go upwards, I think.
Yes, there's so many legal issues relating to COVID, whether it's privacy issues that relate to some of the COVID tracing apps and so on, and some of the public health responses. You know, the idea of compulsory vaccination is a really interesting legal issue. But yes, the issue that we are particularly interested in at the moment is access to vaccines. And Benga I think that's an area that's going to be a really fruitful area for him to explore. So here we are in some countries looking at having booster shots, whereas in many other areas of the world, there are just, you know, the vast majority of people within a population haven't even had their first shots. Yeah. And so, you know, the legal issues associated with what's often referred to as vaccine nationalism, countries keeping all the vaccines for themselves, and how that interacts with intellectual property laws, you know, the big companies having patents and keeping trade secrets and so on. Boy, there's so many legal issues there that are really, really interesting. Yeah. So it will keep us busy for a long time.
Very busy indeed. Yeah. Sounds like it, but no, really, yeah, that's good to hear. Benga, I guess, or Pratap, did you guys want to add anything? There's no questions coming in, which is, I think it's a good sign. Did you guys want to add anything on top following our conversations, or any comments or anything?
Nothing in particular for me, just to encourage people to give it a shot. They wouldn't regret it.
Yeah.
I think I'll talk a bit about the job opportunities.
Yes.
Considering the audience perspective, especially just going out of the Center for Law and Genetics, having expertise in technology and law. Like I have previously worked as a patent attorney, but now we can explore options towards research specifically. If someone is more interested in research, there are opportunities where there are organizations, there are government organizations and even private organizations which work on intellectual property related issues of biotechnology. and biochemical related issues. So yes, students who are interested or once they finish and who are interested in IP law can explore that side of the market, and even if someone else is interested in patents, they can do a course in any advanced biotechnology related or a degree, and then become a patent attorney. So there are a lot of even now when I was looking into IP Australia's website, they were looking for patent examiners. So even they can become patent examiners. So there are like a lot of open doors once we finish, like having an expertise of technology as well as IP law. So it is really a good opportunity for students who are looking to come into the IP law. Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think sometimes students tend to forget that law is actually quite a diverse area to get into, and that, you know, if students want to do a double degree, they can. There are options available. So if you have an interest in business and law, very common area for students to get into. And then you've got those niche areas, you know, with governance around Antarctic studies, etc. And I think having that blend, for example, with our Institute of Marine Antarctic Studies, for example, you know, that collaboration that we have at the University of Tasmania from colleges to colleges, I think it's really important. And I think that's what stands out the student experience, is being able to like collaborate and yeah, gain that experience in niche areas or broad areas. So it's been fantastic. I don't see any questions coming through. So I think we might end it there and save every 10 minutes of their time. So it has been fantastic to hear all of you speak. I've learned a lot for sure. And thanks to our recent graduates and PhD students, and Diane and Jane. Thank you so much for your time. And yeah, hope to see you guys very soon.
It's a great pleasure. And can I, before we leave, can I just comment on Pratap's view out of his window? That's ocean out there, and it just shows what an amazing place it is to live in. Sorry, I just couldn't resist that. And I'll just say bye, everybody, and thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, everybody, and thank you, Mona.
Yeah,
no worries.
Thank you, Mona.
Guys. Thanks, guys. Take care.
See you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.